Hello, and welcome to the SaWGuy podcast.
Like scary movies. What's your favorite scary movie?
Here's Johnny.
We'll tear your soul apart.
The boogeyman is real, and you found him.
Game over, man. Game over.
What do you want?
I want to hear you scream. From the front time, bitch.
Welcome to the SaWGuy podcast. As always, I'm the SaWGuy, bringing you episode number 16 on 13 Ghosts. That's right, 13 Ghosts, the remake. A lot of people are looking at me like, what the fuck are you talking about, remake? Yeah, 13 Ghosts had an original with Vincent Price, but this episode's all about the remake. This is the one that came out in 2001, 2002 time frame. I chose to do this film because I do tend to favor more of the gore, the slasher type genre, and I've been getting a lot of comments, tweets, messages saying, well, you haven't done a supernatural film yet, and granted I haven't, so I figured, well, might as well start with a cult favorite that everybody knows, 13 Ghosts, right? And if you've never seen 13 Ghosts, I recommend seeing it, the remake first, before you see the original. Not too many people like the original because it's all black and white, and it's got that old touch to it, but if you get a chance to see that one, I say see that one too. There's a lot of similarities between the two, but it's not shot-for-shot remake. Not as bad as, Psycho when they tried to remake it. Man, that was a bad one. But anyways, 13 Ghosts. Let me break it down for you and tell you the whole story, what it's all about. 13 Ghosts basically follows this ghost collector. His name is Cyrus. And he collects ghosts, but also hunts them, right? So the whole story goes is that he's down to, I think, the 11th or the 12th ghost he's going to catch. And this is the beginning of the film. They're trying to catch this ghost. His name's the Juggernaut. They call this guy the Juggernaut, or the Ghost, because when he was alive, everyone kept fucking with him. So as he got older, he went to go work at a junkyard. And people would go into his junkyard. He would kill them or whatever. And cops found out about it. They shot him. And so his spirit is left in this junkyard. Well, anyways, Cyrus, he basically tries to do and plant this trap of his normal ghost box, trying to trap this ghost, and they're trying to lure out the Juggernaut. Juggernaut comes out, kills everybody. Matthew Lillard survives. He thinks Cyrus is alive, and then Cyrus ends up getting killed during this whole fiasco of everything going on. Flash forward, it follows Cyrus's family. It follows down to his nephew, and you find out what's going on with his nephew's life. He's had a shit run of life. He has 2 kids. His wife had just passed away. There was like a fire accident or something that happened. They never really explained too much into it. He had to hire a maid. You find out the home life isn't good. Everybody's at each other's throats. Then they get a knock on the door, and it ends up being Cyrus's lawyer, and he wanted to talk to his nephew. His nephew was Tony Shalhoub. Well, anyways, he starts talking to him, saying, hey, do you remember Cyrus? And he starts saying, oh yeah, I remember Cyrus. I'd see him from time to time. And then he tells him the whole story about how he passed on and everything like that. And when he passed on, in his will, he said that he wanted his nephew to take his house. They think that the lawyer is joking. So the lawyer says, okay, pack up your shit. Let's go over here and check out the house. So they all pack up, and they all think they're going to move into the house. They go into the house, and as they're going in, Matthew Lillard's out there. He played basically the ghost hunter. He did all the dirty work and everything for Cyrus, and Cyrus would pay him, right? So his name in the movie was Dennis. And anyways, Dennis, he goes in with him, and he's disguised as a power plant worker saying, oh, I need to check the power and everything. Lawyer thinks nothing of it and says, all right, whatever, just come on in. They start examining the house and everything. He gets them comfortable. Then the lawyer says, all right, I'll be back. He goes downstairs. And I guess Cyrus was supposed to leave him a cut or a pay or something. And as he's going down, you see the corridor of all these ghosts. And I thought it was pretty badass, is that he's going through, he's wearing the special goggles. Because in this movie, you can only see ghosts if you're wearing the special goggles. Otherwise, they're just plain spirits. And they played off on that in the camera, where you would see them, then they flash, see them, and they flash. And every ghost, it was pretty cool how they did it in this movie. Because every ghost has their own backstory, like full detailed backstory, which was badass at, even then and now, As he's going back there, the last ghost he sees is the Angry Princess. She's the one who a lot of people will remember. She's the naked one, and she's the one with her backstory is that she thought she wasn't beautiful enough, and she just went crazy because she just didn't think she can be as beautiful as she thought she could have been, and she killed herself in a tub. And so her spirit is basically trapped in a bathtub with blood, and she's leaning over it, and she has a knife. As he's going in, he made a comment to her about how she looks or whatever, and saying, "Oh, looking pretty" or something, pissing her off. So all these ghosts are hitting on the wall. And what's interesting is that they made it so that way that the whole house, even though it's made of glass, there's spells all over. And no one really picks up on it until later on in the movie. But then you find out later on that after the lawyer is just fucking with them, he goes inside this room, gets his cut or whatever, and as he does that, then all of a sudden this gear shifts and everything starts shifting around in the house. Kind of like Saw a little bit, So you see all the different gizmos and everything, camera pan angles and moving and all that shit. Well, anyways, the first ghost that comes out is Angry Princess, the one he made the comment to, and she's ready to strike, ready to kill him. As he's backing up, the whole house is still shifting, and the glass door, or not the glass door, the glass wall just cuts right through the lawyer, right in half. And you don't know, because you're like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden, just, woo! That glass sound is just sliding, woo! And you see that his body just got cut in half, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? This is pretty cool, I think that was the only goriest scene that you'll see out of the whole film. But for what it was really cool how they did that, because they actually showed that the lawyer was just stuck, his eyes moved, they went white, and then it just whoop. So the lawyer, he started this chain reaction of opening up all of these different, ghost boxes that have all these ghosts contained. And so these ghosts, they can only follow a pathway around the house where there's no spells on the walls or on the glass walls, right? So the whole story goes is that Dennis, Matthew Lillard's character, he's like, oh shit, something's happening, we all need to group up. They group up, and then he starts telling them the story like, hey, I worked with Cyrus, I know what's going on, all this is a lie, I just came in here to find out what the fuck was going on. The family gets pissed, Tony Shalhoub, he punches him, and says, what the fuck you talking about? And then he explains to him the whole story about, hey, I was a ghost hunter, I worked for Cyrus, he would pay me to go find these ghosts, we kidnap them, collect them. Well, what was Cyrus trying to do for these ghosts? Nobody knows, right? As this whole thing is going on, this other chick, she comes in, and you don't see her much in the beginning. Well, I think you see a glimpse of her in the beginning saying, like, oh, you shouldn't do this. She was a ghost rights activist, right? I don't know how the fuck that happened, but a ghost rights activist, yeah. I can't make this up. So anyways, she worked with Cyrus. She goes into the house. They never explain how she snuck into the house or how she was able to get in with everything all moving around. They never did. But the whole story was she was going in there trying to figure out what the hell his whole motive was. Well, one of the 12 ghosts that's in there was Uncle Cyrus, the uncle, right? And he comes out and basically says, okay, well, now that you brought me my book, now that you brought me what I need, I don't need you anymore. He basically puts her in kind of like an enclosed room, and then she gets smashed, and that's the end of her. And as they're all stuck in the room, the family and Dennis and all of them, they get split up again because they can't find Tony Shalhoub's son. And he was like a 10-year-old kid, or 9, and he was one of those kids, typical 90s kid, like riding the scooters and the shit, that was popular for its time, running all around. And they all split up trying to look for him. And the whole time as they're going through, they all have a pair of glasses and they all see the different ghosts. And it's pretty cool because every ghost has, like I said, has its own backstory. So they see a ghost of like a torso who's just moving all around, right? The torso ghost story, the whole backstory with that one was he was a gambler. He basically screwed out the mob or the loan sharks or something. He tried to get away. They kidnapped him. They decapitated him. And now his ghost is basically a torso that's been wrapped in cello wrap. So they see that ghost and they start freaking out. And then they see the kid who was wearing the Indian outfit, and I guess he was a cowboy and Indian around that time. What was his name? The firstborn son. I wrote it all down on my notes. See, I wasn't kidding to you. I wasn't. Each ghost has a lot of details behind it, which is really interesting for this film. I was like, what the fuck? There's more backstory to this ghost than there is to the whole movie. But anyways, they start seeing a little bit of the ghosts here and there and stuff like that. They start freaking out. Then one of my other favorite ghosts comes out, the Jackal. And what's cool about the Jackal is that he's just this mad dog, crazy, fucking insane ghost, right? His whole backstory is that he didn't like prostitutes, and so he was killing prostitutes, and then he committed himself because he thought he had an issue, which that's a wink to Jack the Ripper, obviously. We all know that, right? And his ghost was tormented, and he had a cage on his head and stuff like that, trying to prevent himself from going crazy, and that's how his spirit ended up being, was that he was crazy. There's a scene that he breaks out, and it shows that he's just running super fast. It was just that 90s feel of how they do, like, the fast action motion. But anyways, he grabs Shannon Elizabeth and drags her, and he drags her to the point where the wall shuts. And when the wall shuts, then all of a sudden, you find out that, okay, well, this isn't a joke. These ghosts are for real. They're coming after everybody, right? And the ghosts in this whole movie have no motive, just trying to get the fuck out of the house. And they can't because, there's all these spells around. And that's what the whole movie's about. So, Cyrus, as he's coming up with his plan, reading through the book of the devil or the Saintism or ghost hunting book, something, they never really explained it. He's trying to build up this elaborate trap of trying to keep all these ghosts together, and he's trying to collect a 13th ghost. And then you find out towards the end that the 13th ghost the whole time was his nephew. Why was it his nephew? Because he needs a ghost that loves his family enough to try to sacrifice himself to save them. Because every one of these ghosts, it kind of follows the rules of Seven, the film. So you have your glutton, then you have your vanity, that I didn't really know that until I started watching the film, like, oh shit, okay, this is pretty cool. It's got a Seven-ish twist to it, So he needs a ghost from all these different types of the ways they died, of how they lived their life. You had the spoiled kid, you had the mom who babied her son until he was a big glutton, stuff like that. You had, what was another one that I liked, which was the Torn Prince, who was kind of like a James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause kind of style. He was a baseball player, and he got into an accident during a drag race. So he needed all these ghosts with different backstories. And his 13 ghosts to complete this whole triad of things, to have control of all the ghosts and stuff, was his nephew. That was the whole plot of this film, was to try to get his nephew in the house so he can have that way, right? He builds this elaborate trap where it's like this spear going all around, and he has Tony Shalhoub's kids, Shannon Elizabeth and his son. They finally find him, and as everything's going crazy, he tries to go and save them, and he can't save them because all the walls and shit are still built up. As he's going around with Dennis, or Matthew Lillard, they find out that one of the walls popped out, and it ended up being the other big badass ghost, which was the Hammer. He was the big buff dude who had all the railroad spikes and shit, and his backstory was nobody really liked him. He was an asshole, so they basically, tortured this guy with railroad spikes, and he was a blacksmith, right? So this ghost coming after Tony Shalhoub and Dennis Leary. Why did I say Dennis Leary? I meant to say Matthew Lillard, right? And there's a scene where they basically are kind of like cornered, and there's no way that they're going to survive, so he basically sacrificed himself and tells Tony Shalhoub, stay behind this glass, the spell will protect you, and that's what he was doing. And as that was going on, then the Hammer was just beating the shit out of Matthew Lillard's character, Dennis, and I thought it was kind of funny, because it got real cheesy, and it got real kind of effecty kind of thing, like special effects. He picks up a dummy, and it's supposed to be him, and he breaks him in half and throws him on the ground. And it was really cheesy because you could tell it's like a plastic dummy or whatever. But after that, then the walls shift, and then, then he's able to go inside and save his kids. But he wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for, Dennis sacrificing himself for Tony Shalhoub so he can go and get his kids. So now we're at the ending of the film, and all of a sudden shit's going haywire, things are going crazy, and then the spear's going, then it stops, then it's going, then it stops. Tony Shalhoub jumps through the spear, sacrifices himself. He doesn't die or anything, and he holds on to his kids as the whole house just kind of falls apart, and then all the glass breaks, and all the ghosts escape. End of movie. And for what it was, the movie was okay. It had a simple plot, right? But I thought it was interesting that the ghosts, all 12 ghosts, because they call the movie 13 Ghosts, but there's only 12 ghosts. The 13 ghosts was supposed to be Tony Shalhoub. But the interesting thing was the fact that all these ghosts had their own separate backstory, which was really cool. If you've ever seen 13 Ghosts on DVD or have the DVD, there's a secret menu. And I remember this because I was watching the shit out of this when it first came out when I was young. You go into special features, and on the menu, you click right, and it will show you like all their cards, and then it will tell you all like the different things about each ghost, right? And out of this movie, all the ghosts had like really, really good details about everything. I already mentioned the gambler. I already mentioned the torn prince, the angry princess, the hammer, the big blacksmith dude, the juggernaut, the big bad motherfucker who was breaking people in half. He was in the beginning. The jackal, the one who's the Jack the Ripper kind of ripoff. There was other ones too. They had what was it? The bound woman, which they got really detailed with her. She basically was this beautiful girl, have anybody that she wants. She basically cheated on her boyfriend. Her boyfriend got jealous at the prom. This is the backstory, right? And he kidnapped her, and then he bound her and basically asphyxiated her. And she's the chick who's just like bouncing around with like a gag around her neck and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty crazy. I was like, whoa, okay, they had this whole backstory and everything, like how she was in previous life and how everything happened. Because when you see the ghosts in this film, the ghosts they all look the same as they would in human form. The only difference is like if they were killed with an arrow to the head, like the firstborn son, the cowboy and Indian one. That's the way they were, or the torn prince, how his face is all fucked up from the drag racing accident. That's how they kept them. The one that I thought was kind of messed up out of this movie was Tony Shalhoub's character. When his wife had passed, Cyrus had kidnapped his wife's soul, or her ghost, and she was the fourth ghost. And I thought what was interesting is that they made a wink at it, a huge wink that she was number 4, right? In Roman numerals, IV stands for 4, right? So the whole time in the movie, she's walking around with an IV bag, and that was just basically right in front of us the whole time that she's ghost number 4. And I thought that was pretty cool. It was a little wink that the creators did. Okay, I give them credit for that. But every ghost, they all had simple guidelines and stuff that they had to follow in order for Cyrus to collect and build his contraption, whatever, There was really no big ending sequence to it, I guess you could say, because he just wanted to collect all the ghosts and have control over them. That's what they implied. They never said really the whole plot and all that stuff. But every ghost, they all had their different stories to it. The ones that I didn't mention was the Pilgrimess. That was the one from like the Pilgrim times. They assumed that she was a witch. They killed her, and I'm trying to remember for the life of me. Which one was she? She was the one like in the Pilgrim outfit, but she didn't have anything too messed up. I think they drowned her. That was her story. Then the other one, you had the ghost mother and the ghost child. Or no, the ghost child and the dire mother. The dire mother was like a little person, and her backstory was they put her in like freak shows and stuff. People would fuck with her. Then she was basically harassed and raped, and then she had a son. And when she had her son, she babied him all the way up until he was an adult, still in diapers and stuff, still treating him like a baby, right? And the reason why they became ghosts is because somebody had accidentally killed his mom, and the baby just went crazy. He was already an adult, but at this time, he just went apeshit crazy, and they killed him and killed her. And that's basically all your 12 ghosts. The 13th ghost, Tony Shalhoub's, basically, well, his character's name in the movie, I wrote it down all over here. His name's Arthur. But he was supposed to be the 13th ghost because Cyrus needed a broken-hearted ghost. right? Someone that would sacrifice himself. I already said that, you know? So every one of these ghosts too, they all have their different names. The Torso, the Bound Women, the Withered Lover, which was number 4. Torn Prince is number 5. Angry Princess was the naked one, 6. The Ghost Child and the Mother, 8 and 9. The Pilgrimess was number 7. They never really explained why they were all in specific numbers, but I thought it was pretty interesting, pretty cool, you know. But it's one of those films, 13 Ghosts, this remake, it's either you love it or you hate it. Everybody that I know, that I've talked to, they've all loved this film. My generation, even the younger generations, which I don't know how the fuck they've been seeing this film. But I thought it was kind of funny because, you know, you see this film a lot. It comes on Sci-Fi Channel during Halloween. It comes on El Rey Network now. That's a new channel that plays a lot of the different horror films. And for what it was, this film was always really good. It was interesting. Just the fact that all these ghosts had more backstory than the actual whole story of the movie itself. And I say it's either you love it or you hate it. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people love it because of the intricate details and everything they put in for the ghosts, even though you only see them for a few seconds, maybe a couple minutes here and there. But other people that I've talked to that are huge horror fans like me, you're probably one of them too, you know, they don't like it because it's basically a remake, you know, and I get it, obviously, remakes or whatever, but the original 13 Ghosts, it was great for what it was, but it was one of those films that was made like so long ago that everyone kind of forgot about it, that if they would have remade it, no one would ever know that there was an original to begin with, you know what I'm saying? But they don't do that now with movies, but during the early 2000s, they kind of dipped their toes in the water a little bit with some of the remakes. But this is one of those ones that just really popped out. And a lot of people liked it because of the fact of, you know, it's creepy, it's scary, there's different ghosts, different hells, I guess. That's what everyone tells me. If you got a different opinion, let me know in the comments below, because I'm anxious to hear what you guys think about 13 Ghosts. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Another thing I want to bring up, why a lot of people didn't like it, was because of the effects. And I'm on borderline on that. I'm on the fence. And the reason being is because obviously you could tell where they spent all the money on the effects, like the ending contraption where it's holding, you know, the kids and shit like that. But you see other scenes where the hammer is going to break Dennis in half and it ends up being a dummy. Like, really? I mean, I get where you put all the money into, but at least, you know, kind of like cover it up, dude. Don't make it so obvious that it's a dummy, but, you know, classic B-rate, you know. This film wasn't meant to be so much B-rate because it was released in theaters, as I said, but it didn't do too well. I mean, you know, it was more garnered for, like, the younger audience, like 20, 21, around that age, you know. It's not like films like today, like Truth or Dare, where it's like for the 16 and 17-year-old kids, you know. But what was cool about this film, I like it. You know, if it's on TV, I'll watch it. If it's one of those films that's on Netflix and I have my choice of all these other films, I probably wouldn't. You know, unless I really wanted to watch it, because the plot is simple. There is a little dialogue where it gets kind of slow. You know, obviously they have to get it a little slow to explain the whole story and everything like that. But to me, I love the film because of the ghosts. The ghosts look badass. They did a damn good job on it. I would have loved for them to do a sequel, or at least a prequel as a sequel, but they never did anything with it because I'm not sure if it made its budget back or if it did over. I think the DVD sales kind of bumped it up a little bit, but they never went back on it. They never did a prequel. They never did anything about that. There is rumors around saying they are going to remake it now with the technology we have and stuff like that, and probably do it in 3D, which would not be a bad idea. I mean, this film alone, if 3D was around, this would have been badass in 3D with the ghosts and shit coming out at you. I would have liked that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Wouldn't it have been pretty cool in 3D, right? You know? I'm not the only one that thinks that. But for what it was, for an early 2000 film, it just, you know, that was the down years of horror. It really was. Because 90s, well, mid-90s, you had Scream and Ghostface. But that was really the big thing. Everything was all like slash and gash kind of films, like I Know What You Did Last Summer. Then around 2000, they did a string of remakes and random one and done films, which was pretty cool. You know, they were all original ideas at least, except one or two remakes. But this was one of those ones that I think it was made so far from the original that a lot of people forget, or some don't even know, or some of you probably this is your first time hearing that this is actually a remake of the original, you know? The only correlation that this one has, the original and the remake, the only difference is the character's name. And the fact of Cyrus was the nephew in the original, and Cyrus is the uncle in the remake. That's the only difference. They just switched up the character names, switched them, different identities. But for overall, I mean, it was pretty good for what they did. They didn't do shot-for-shot remake like like the remake of Psycho. That was another one I saw the other day. Just like, oh man, you can't do 50s shot-for-shot remake of a film and expect it to be okay. But, you know, at different times. That's what it is, you know. But bottom line, a lot of people, it's love it or hate it. A lot of people, they complain about the effects, the ones that didn't like it. And I get it. Sometimes there's so much going on, because this movie does have a lot going on, where you see all the effects, it's over the actor's face, and just, yeah, it gets headache. You can get a headache from it, you know, and I do, you know, if I'm not wearing my glasses, but, yeah. But, you either love it or you hate it, you know, bottom line. It's one of those films that's a cult favorite from everybody, most people. If you like it, cool, you know, because it's one of those good supernatural films. If not, I suggest give it a second shot, because, I mean, just the ghosts alone just make this movie badass just to watch it. I might even watch it after this episode, to be honest with you. Watch it again, at least for the 5th, 6th, 7th time, you know, since I've been doing this episode. That's what I usually do for my research. Usually watch it a couple of times. But anyways, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Always anxious to hear what you guys think about it. I know... I do tend to favor slasher films over supernatural and other style of films, but I'm kind of branching out. I've been going through this supernatural phase since y'all kind of been bringing it up to me, you know. I'm anxious to see what you guys think on this, you know. So let me know in the comments below. Get at me, tweet at me. Let me know. I'm the only SaWGuy. I'm the only guy who actually reads all this, you know. It's a one-man show, one-man operation, so let me know what y'all think. You'll be excited for the next episode. I'll tell you that much, you know, because it's gonna be about a different dimension, I shall say. Hint, hint. So, but anyways, thank you for joining me on 13 Ghosts for episode 16. As always, I'm the SaWGuy, and that's all I got, guys. I'm out.